friends. Lori Ashcraft here. I'm your host for Viva La Evolution, which is sponsored by Recovery and Resilience Solutions, a training and consulting branch of Crestwood Behavioral Health. And we're so happy to bring you these podcasts. If you would subscribe, that would help us out a lot. Promise not to send you any stuff. It just brings you into our family a little better and gives you notices when we do another podcast. Speaking of which, today I am so happy to introduce you to Alyssa Torres. Alyssa has been such an inspiration to me. I first met her, I don't know if it was 3 or 4 years ago, but it was a while back. And she was a student in the peer training class at the Crestwood San Diego. And she completed that class. She'll tell you all about this. Completed the class, which really, and listen to this part closely when she tells you about this, because she'll tell you the points in time, the turning points, the moments where the recovery process started to get some traction with her. And a lot of it had to do with Crestwood and with the peer training. So I'm just so delighted when our company gets to take credit for something they do. I mean, they do a lot all the time, but especially with the Peer Project, which is so near and dear to my heart. So, I want you to pay attention to a few things. One, if you're a family member, pay attention to how important Alicia's family was, especially her father, in her recovery process. So that's something to pay attention to. Another thing is to pay attention to how she's one of the folks that just got bounced around from hospital to hospital, heavily medicated, finally coming to rest at Crestwood. And all that bouncing takes a toll. That's not free, Every time you bounce, it hurts. Every time you put on a different medication, it scrambles your brain up for a while. I speak from experience here. And then notice how after the training, she had enough belief in herself to keep going. She made it through the internship. She got hired at Crestwood, first at one facility, and she worked there for several months. But the transportation process and a few other things were making it very difficult. Then she moved back to San Diego and has worked there ever since. So I know you are going to be inspired. And by the end of this, you're going to fall in love with Alyssa. So without me babbling on anymore, here's Alyssa. Well, here we are with my friend Alyssa Torres. I've just admired her so much as I've watched her move through the latest part of her recovery process. And I'm just delighted that she's here to share it with us. It's so inspiring. And she's such a beautiful person. You'll find that out. So, are you ready to get started, Alyssa?
I am.
Okay. Here you are looking beautiful and put together. No one would ever guess, probably would guess either of us have struggled with pretty profound mental health issues, which we both have, as we know. So I think it would be good to just share a little bit about your story of recovery before we get into what you're doing now. And I could start by saying a little bit about mine. That might help. So I, my recovery process started in I would say, the early 90s. And that was a time when, you think stigma might be bad now. It was incredibly bad then.
Mhm.
And I was working for a rather large company. And I was the only woman on an all male management team. So it was already a little strange, just because, I mean, a little different from everybody else. And, and I was struggling with depression and anxiety and an eating disorder. And when you get those three things together, people pile on other diagnoses because they think they all fit together. So I had a few others, but I never owned them. So they just floated out there in someone else's mind. And I just remember um, trying really hard to convince my team that recovery was possible. And I didn't want to tell anybody that I was struggling with it myself because of prejudice and really afraid I would lose my job. And it, it finally got to a point where I just didn't feel authentic. And I um, I felt like hiding my true struggle and my true self was keeping me from doing the best at my job. And I could start to just feel that in my heart. So I decided to tell people about it. And some of you have heard this story before. It was very rocky for a while because either people were trying to take care of me or they were trying to get rid of me one way or the other. So, but finally it settled out and it really worked in our favor. So I have a little idea about how hard it is to share a story about recovery, especially when it includes a lot of really tough times. So I just want to honor you and thank you for being willing to share a little bit of your story. Yeah. And if I don't know if you can think of this, but I've been thinking about making a little video, going back and just taking pieces out of various podcasts, because I've asked many people, can you identify a specific time when you knew you were going to recover, when you knew you were going to step out and make the changes you needed to make to recover? So
Mm.
tell us about your recovery story. And then when you get to that point, kind of exaggerate it so we can hear it a little better.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
First I want to say thank you for sharing your story, a bit of your story on this podcast as well, because I did grow up in a household where what happens in the household stays in the household. Your personal business is your personal business. So to come on a podcast and be vulnerable and share my recovery is something that's out of my norm.
Yeah.
But I do think that mental illness is real. And I also believe that recovery is even more real. So that's why I'm here to share that and to bring light to it,
Thank you.
of course. Just to share a little bit about my recovery story. It all started when I was probably about 15 years old. I was in high school and I experienced some really bad depression and anxiety, and at the time I didn't know what that was. And I don't believe my family really understood what it was either. I think they just thought I was a normal teenager going through some normal teenage girl stuff. But it became pretty severe and I started to experience SI. And if people don't know what that is, that's suicidal ideation, where you feel like you want to commit suicide. And then I also had a few attempts where I did attempt to commit suicide, which is really unfortunate. Luckily, it didn't happen. I could say that I'm lucky today, even though that was a very dark place for me. And that's kind of where it began. I first started getting admitted into psychiatric hospitals at the age of 15. And it wasn't until I was 23, which it was my last stay at a psychiatric hospital. I'm now 28. So between the age of 15 to 23, I was in and out of psychiatric hospitals for different reasons. There was a reason that I went through another real bad depression when I was 21. And I I didn't understand what was going on. I was working full time. I was a student full time, and I was just living my normal life. And I went through really bad depression, and I started experiencing hallucinations. And I had never experienced that before. I started experiencing a lot of bad anxiety at my workplace, and I was crying a lot, and I was hallucinating, and I thought it was a lack of sleep because I'm a full time student and a full time employee working a night shift. But the symptoms just kept reoccurring to a point where I was one day with a friend and I was eating and I hallucinated again. I thought I seen something that wasn't there, and she had told me, why don't you go into a clinic and see about talking to somebody? I was admitted, and it was at that point that they had diagnosed me with schizoaffective. I had never heard of it. I had heard of schizophrenia, but I never heard of schizoaffective. So, for those who don't know what schizoaffective is, it is like schizophrenia, but you also experience a mood disorder, which mine happens to be bipolar. So, I have this as system, the symptoms of schizophrenia, but I also have a mood disorder, which is bipolar.
Mhm.
So, that kind of entails, hearing voices, seeing things, paranoia, anxiety, depression, that all it was entangled in that diagnosis. Um, and it wasn't my fault. When we get diagnosed with these diagnoses, it's not our fault. We have a chemical imbalance. There's nothing that we do to make ourselves these people. Nobody wants to be schizoaffective. Nobody wants to be schizophrenic, bipolar disorder, none of that. And I feel like there's a lot of shame and
Mhm.
stigma when it comes to that, because at the end of the day, we're just people living our lives. I mean, I was a full time employee,
Mhm.
I was a full time student, I was doing what I had to do. I was, doing pretty good, well off for myself at a young age. And things just happen where it's chemical imbalance that causes us to be a little bit different than others. And
Excuse me for interrupting you, Alicia.
totally fine.
What I hear too in your story is, and I have done this so many times myself, is do I mean we try our best to be our best, and we get a lot of stress, like to be a full-time student and work a full-time night shift. That there's got to be a huge amount of stress in that.
Mm-hmm.
Some of us, I I mean, we've got that achievement part and that belief in ourselves to accomplish, and so we can make a contribution. But we push ourselves so hard that we get into a big stress situation, and then we're vulnerable, and these things come up in us. It's and like you're saying, it's not our fault. We just became vulnerable and got under attack with depression. Or I tend to not like labels very much, but I know we kind of use them because then we all know what we're talking about. When you say schizoaffective, I know what you're talking about. You don't have to tell me a long story. But underneath that label, as you're saying, is a real person who's just trying to do her best, trying really hard to do your best, more than most people would do. And then when you kind of crumble under the weight of that, then we get stigmatized for it. So I just want to thank you for sharing that little tidbit of information, because I think that happens to us a lot.
Absolutely.
Well, I kind of interrupted you there. Do you remember where you were? You were talking about working full time, being a full time student, being diagnosed. Sound like you got hospitalized again then?
Yeah, so I was hospitalized, and then after I was diagnosed being schizoaffective, I had taken some time off work, and I had realized that work just wasn't the best for me right now. My dad really convinced me that it was time for me to take some time off and go on disability and focus on recovery, which looked like therapy meetings, seeing a psychiatrist just to get my mental health back. But so dearly, badly did I just want to be that normal girl that was going to school and working again. So it was a very hard pill to swallow, but I had to do it for my well being because I mean, it just wasn't going good. And that felt very defeating. But in the moment, I'm glad I listened to my dad because he did know what was best for me.
Yeah.
I also want to say that my mother has mental illness as well. She's diagnosed with bipolar. So, I very badly did not want to be untreated like my mother was and turn out to experience the life that she lives, which is different than the life that me and my family live. So, I wanted to take into consideration what my dad has suggested, very deep because I didn't want to end up in her shoes. So I did that. And the years just went on with battling this schizoaffective disorder. And it looked like going in and out of hospitals. It looked like starting to experience new symptoms, which were really scary for me. You know, when voices occurred, I didn't know what that was. I thought they were real.
Yeah.
Hallucinations, I thought those were real as well. It was hard to even know what the problem was because everything felt so real.
Mm-hmm.
So eventually, after battling this and getting myself into some pretty sticky situations due to my mental illness, I was in and out of hospitals. I had a 3 month stay for one period. I was out for 2 days and then went back for another 3 months because those 2 days I lied to get out of the hospital. I was in there for 3 months and I lied about my symptoms. I said everything was okay. I wasn't experiencing these things because you're locked in there for 3 months. And it was also during COVID where you couldn't have family visitations.
Mm.
So I wanted nothing more than to go out. um, but after being out there for 2 days and telling my dad everything that was going on, he was like, Alyssa, like, I know it's really hard, but you're not going to get better unless you're being honest and you're telling the doctors the truth. And you have to go back and tell them what's really going on. And I didn't want to struggle anymore. Those 2 days felt like forever being at a crisis house where I was at and experiencing the symptoms. So I admitted myself back into the hospital and it took another 3 months. And in there, they offered a solution for me, which was to put myself on conservatorship, which would mean that I'm no longer capable of taking care of myself or my well being, and go to a long term facility where I would get treatment and care for my mental illness. That place was called Crestwood, and Crestwood did save my life. I did end up deciding to go to this treatment facility where my dad had once again strongly recommended that I do this. He looked into the facility himself. He seen that they had a spa, that you could go on passes, they had patios, they had groups throughout the day, they had on 24-hour staff, and it just seemed like a really good place for me to get my life back because so dearly did I want to be that student and that full-time employee who was had a lot of friends, lived a fulfilling life, and
Yeah.
things in that nature. So I went to Crestwood. Um,
You were probably on, well, I'm going to guess quite a bit of medication during all of this period.
yeah, I was. But to be honest, there was a long period where I was against medication, which I believe may have prolonged my recovery process, right?
Mm-hmm.
There was periods where I did not want to take medication, and although my dad would encourage me, he never forced me to.
Mm-hmm.
There was periods where I began to start feeling better and I thought I no longer needed them. And that is really common in the mental illness industry where people who suffer from mental illness begin to feel better. And I'm saying this from firsthand experience. And then we no longer want to take our medications. It took me years to realize the reason that I'm feeling better is because of these medications that I'm taking. And if I want to keep feeling better, I got to keep taking these
Yes.
medications.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm so lucky that I had close friends like my friend Janine and my father and my family who told me those things. If you feel good, it's because you're taking them, and if you want to continue to feel good, you have to continue taking them.
Mhm. And they probably changed over time.
And they did change over time. Yeah, they would change a lot. Um, yeah, they would change.
Mhm. Are you still on medication now?
I am still on medication, yeah. But you know what? When I left Crestwood, and I don't want to kind of drift off and go back and forth, but I'll jump to this. When
Okay.
I left Crestwood, I gained a significant amount of weight due to my medications.
Yes.
I mean, probably like 50 pounds. I'm not kidding.
Mm-hmm.
So after a while, I told my psychiatrist, I don't want to take these medications. They're making me gain a significant amount of weight. And it wasn't until I stopped taking them that he was like, okay, let's change them. When I stopped taking them, I lost like 30 pounds in 3 months.
Oh, good.
So I knew it was the medication. But then again, now my mental illness is suffering, But luckily, I worked with my doctor to find a solution where I could take a monthly injection and take a PRN here and there if I needed to.
Yeah.
And that was the solution, and that's what it came down to. But when I was at Crestwood, there was periods where I was taking a good handful of medication just to get these symptoms to get
Mm-hmm.
under control. I was taking like 9, maybe more than that at one point, and that was really hard.
Yeah.
I don't like pills, so they'd give me applesauce.
Well, and the thing with that I find even today with medication is it'll fix one thing, but it'll cause another. Like in your
Yeah.
case, it helped your mental health, but you gained weight. And then of course we feel terrible when we gain weight. You know,
Yeah.
we just
Especially with social media, there's so much negative connotation with weight gain with women. They think
yeah,
that we're supposed to have these teenage bodies for the rest of our lives.
yes. So I know. Uh, but so that's one thing. I mean, there's the upside and the downside to everything, and medication is no exception. Um, but as I'm listening to your story, what I see missing, a key recovery tool is nobody. Maybe at Crestwood they started this. I know it happened there because you went through the training, the peer training. But uh, I'm just reminded of this last week because um, this last month was recovery month, and so I would get a lot of mailings uh, from government organizations promoting recovery, and I've been so pleased with them because they're pointing out the incredible benefit of having a purpose. And it seems to me like through all of your process, nobody reintroduced you to even a small amount of purpose. Like, Alicia, could you help me pull the weeds? Or, Alicia, could you bring me a cup of coffee? Or, Alicia, could you go sit with Joanne because she's having a bad day? You know, the purpose is so powerful for all of us. And to not include it in a treatment plan for people, I just think is not very good. I know Crestwood does that because you ended up in the peer training. I just, sorry, I got on a little soapbox there. That's the
It's
last day of
okay.
recovery month.
And I agree. I mean, throughout the years, I mean, when I first initially went on disability, it was temporary. So I did go back to the workplace throughout those years. I always had a job on and off with my mental illness. But yeah, when I came to Crestwood, after coming to Crestwood, I knew that I was going to get better. I knew that that's when I had faith and I seen the light at the end of the tunnel because it was a great facility where it was full time. I wasn't just coming and going. The staff here were amazing. The groups they provided were really wonderful. I did DBT, I did rap, I did anger management, I did recreational groups, we did outings, and it was all very well for my mental illness. And throughout my journey, throughout all the years, especially when things got really bad, my dad would always tell me, and I'll never forget this. He would always tell me, Alyssa, at the end of this, you're going to be a superstar.
Yeah.
And, and I couldn't see it at the moment, but he did. And
Mhm.
I'm really grateful for that
Yeah.
because in the end, I am a superstar today.
Yeah.
um, I came to Crestwood, and at the end of my stay, they offered me to be a peer support
Let's
specialist.
back up a little bit because you're leaving out a big, good chunk of good stuff here. So, first of all, when you said you came to Crestwood and you knew that you were going to get better, what can you tell? I'm just fascinated with this moment that we have. when we turn a corner. Can you say more about that moment?
Yes. So when I came to Crestwood, I knew things were going to change because one, my dad told me it was a good place, and I trusted my dad my whole life. He's a single father. He raised us all girls and my brother.
Hmm.
So he's a very smart man. So when he told me that this place was going to help me, I believe this place was going to help me. And when I came here, I was amongst a lot of other people who were struggling with the same thing that I was,
Hmm.
which gave me community, you know?
Yes, yes.
And then the staff here were just so welcoming. They felt like family, truly. And they felt like they really cared about my recovery and my well being. And
Hmm.
they believed that I would get better. So the more people who believed I would get better, the more I started to believe in myself.
Yes, yes, yes.
And with the ongoing groups that they have throughout the day and the regular appointments with your psychiatrist and the nurses there to ask any questions, I mean, it was the full package. It wasn't always easy. It wasn't always fun. Places do like this do have their ups and downs,
Yeah.
but it was bearable, and I was able to get through the program in 15 months.
Hmm.
And I just really appreciate the staff more than anything because when I was there was it was still during COVID,
Hmm.
and when I first got there, I had one family visit, but then it was months until I could see my family again and until we could leave the facility. So it was like waking up to the same staff and going to sleep to the same staff felt like family. And
Yes.
they give me hugs. They would tell me that they cared about me. They'd spend time talking to me. I would share certain things with them. And that support really meant a lot.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Well, tell me about when you heard about the peer training. What
Yeah.
happened when that came about?
I'll never forget. They pulled me outside to the patio. His name was Simon. He no longer works at San Diego, but he works at another Crestwood. He pulled me outside. He said, "Hey, Alyssa. So I just want to say that I think you're doing amazing, and there's no doubt in my mind that when you leave here, you're gonna do amazing as well. But we want to ask you if you want to be a part of this program that we're starting called Peer Support. It's a 2 week training, and you'll get a paid internship afterwards and have the opportunity to possibly work at Crestwood when it's all done." I was kind of thrown off. I was like, wow, that would be awesome to work at a place that helped me so much. What does it really entail? And he kind of explained that it would be turning my own personal recovery story into a resilience story where I could share it with others, to inspire and to give hope.
Yeah.
And I would learn how to facilitate wellness groups and coordinate one-to-ones. And I was really excited. So that's how it was presented to me, and I
Hmm.
agreed, and I took the 2 week course.
And was this during COVID?
This was still during COVID, yeah, because I remember they were debating whether where they were gonna have the group, like if it was gonna be off campus in the bungalows or somewhere else, but it was still during COVID, I
Yeah.
believe, like the end of COVID.
And those were tough classes, I remember, because I think some of it was Zoom, a lot of it was Zoom.
Well,
And
luckily ours, we had Chris Martin in person as our
oh,
facilitator and as our teacher, and he was amazing.
yes, he is amazing. Yeah. Okay, so what was good and what was hard about peer training?
What was good was it was something new. It was about me and turning my life into a career almost, which was exciting.
Yeah,
It was awesome to have a few of my peers alongside with me taking this
yeah,
course,
yeah.
hearing their stories and sharing my own story and learning how to format the story to where it's not so much about our struggles, but about where we've come and how far we've come and what
Mhm.
we're planning to do for tomorrow. So seeing people turn their stories into these beautiful, resilient stories that were inspiring was an awesome part of the training.
Yeah.
We learned how to do groups, which was awesome because I love being in front of people.
Mhm.
I feel like I'm a pretty good speaker, so that was fun to do.
Oh,
The hard part I'll never forget was our test that we took. We studied as a group in our rooms, and I was so scared I wasn't gonna pass. It was hard. I'm not gonna lie, it was a hard test.
yes, I know it is. So
But
you passed that.
I passed the test,
That
yes.
must have been very affirming. Like,
It was very affirming and it was really exciting. And I felt very proud of myself amongst all of my other peers who passed because I believe we all passed.
yeah. Well, then you started the internship.
Yeah. And then we started the internship. And at the time, I believe the internship was like 108 hours.
Yeah. Yeah.
They've deducted it a lot nowadays. I think this last internship is going to be 60 hours, somewhere along those
Yeah.
numbers.
I think it's
But
70, but I'm not
70.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah, but back when we were the first graduates, they gave us a pretty long internship. So, um I was really tired a lot of the time, and I remember not really wanting to wake up for my internship, but I did it anyways, and I got dressed and I pretended like this is my job. I didn't act like this was my home where I live. I acted like this is a place I'm going to work. I dressed well and I went to my internship and I took it very serious. I had my wonderful mentor Maria, who was amazing, who walked me through the internship so well, gave me all the skills that I needed to be successful.
You know, I just want to shine the light on something you said. You said it was hard. And if we don't do hard things, we don't know how strong we are.
Absolutely.
So we've got to do hard things. I go to the gym because I'm trying to keep my bones strong. And it's hard. But if I don't do it, then nothing will happen. I won't get stronger. And I just think that's the same with life. When we accomplish something that's easy, it doesn't tell us anything about ourselves. But when we accomplish something that's hard, then we go, yes, I can do this. What else can I do? So I'm
Absolutely.
glad you brought that out, the hard stuff. Yeah. I have people say, I just didn't feel like doing it. Well, I do things all day that I don't feel like doing. You probably do. Get over it. Go do it.
Yeah, it's life. That's what my dad would say. It's life. It's called being an adult.
Yeah. Well,
But it
then,
makes you stronger and it builds character.
yes, yeah. So you did the internship, and then how does it work? Then they ask you if do you apply for a job after that?
So after I completed the internship, I actually had a interview with all three campuses in San Diego. I had one with Crestwood Fallbrook, Crestwood San Diego, and Crestwood Chula Vista.
So did
Um,
that were they all in the same room? It was one interview with three different people, or
It was through Zoom. So I had
okay,
it.
okay.
So all the administrators from each campus were on the Zoom with me. And they interviewed me and I remember I got offered a job at all three facilities. And so then I had to pick. And because I was transferring from Crestwood, San Diego to my boarding care in Oceanside, I thought the closest commute would be Fallbrook, when in reality, Fallbrook and San Diego from Oceanside is pretty much the same. But I took the job at Fallbrook.
Okay. Yeah. And you're still there.
I actually am not at Fallbrook anymore. I'm at Crestwood, San Diego.
Oh, okay. So you transferred.
So
So you've been employed for how long now?
since 2021.
Wow. So 4 years, I would say.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
want to talk a little bit about that transition from Fallbrook to San Diego.
Okay, good.
So, as I graduated Crestwood, I went to my boarding care in Oceanside and I commuted from Oceanside to Fallbrook on the bus for 2 hours one way, and on the back, it was 2.5 hours.
Oh my gosh.
So I was committed. At this point, I was still on conservatorship, so I couldn't have my license. Although when I was at Crestwood, I did save up for a car, and I bought a car when I was at Crestwood, and my family had the car. But I couldn't utilize that car because I was still on conservatorship and didn't have my license yet. So I took the bus for a year going to Fallbrook, and after about a year being at the boarding care, I was able to get a housing voucher and I found an apartment in Mission Valley that was really nice. And
Mhm.
I wanted to be close to my family. So I moved to Mission Valley and I was able to transfer to Crestwood, San Diego at the facility that I once lived in. So
Yes.
I
Yeah.
moved I moved into my apartment in Mission Valley and then I transferred to Crestwood, San Diego. And from there was a whole new experience. It was amazing. I love Fallbrook, but I really love Crestwood San Diego
Yeah.
because there's staff here who not only see who I am today, but they know where I have been. They know
Yes.
the person that I used to be, and their encouraging words and their support throughout the years have always meant a lot to me.
Well, at what point did you get off a conservatorship?
I got off conservatorship 6 months after graduating Crestwood.
Okay.
So although I was off conservatorship half of the time that I was at the boarding care, it was still a lengthy process to get your license back. I mean, I just got my license back this year.
Oh,
Um, yeah, so I worked on getting my license. I had it cleared. I did the RAN test, the behind the wheel. I have a vehicle, I have a car. So my life is kind of coming together really well. I've
yes.
been at my apartment for about 3 years now.
Uh, I am so proud of you.
Thank you.
I remember, do I remember being in a job club and you not wanting to say anything?
Maybe.
Yeah. So you've really come out of you've blossomed. You're
Thanks.
back. Yeah. And so how is it working?
Working is great. I mean, I've been working at this facility for 3 years, and this year I was promoted to lead PSS, lead peer support specialist, which
Wow.
is amazing.
Good for
Yeah.
you.
It's amazing to have people who look up to me for guidance and support, and me being able to be there for them and give them everything that I have to offer.
Yeah.
I have an amazing supervisor, Amber Braxton. She's the best supervisor I've ever had in the workplace.
Uh, uh,
Working with the person served here is a job that feels like meaning and purpose.
yeah.
Um, for so long, I didn't know why I was experiencing the life that I was with my mental health, but today I see why God gave that to me because it can inspire and give hope to others.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I facilitate groups. I'm also a rap facilitator, so I facilitate rap groups as well on Fridays. I
Hmm.
do Tai Chi, which was a group that Chris Martin introduced to me and Bridget. That's one of the most the Tai Chi is one of the most popular groups at Crestwood San Diego.
Uh.
So that's amazing. We do Best Side Story where people learn to do what we did as PSSs and turn our stories into resilient stories, and they write a book, a little book about their story and their life.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I also do Reading Circle. We just got done reading the Four Agreements, which is
Oh,
amazing.
yeah.
Really engaged and loved reading that book. They said it was a 10 out of 10. They showed up every week for it.
Uh,
And our next book that we're going to be reading is Chicken Soup for the Recovery Soul.
oh, good.
I'm super excited. It's going to be about stories from people who've struggled with mental illness and addictions as well. So I'm super excited to get that book here at the campus and share that with them, with the person served. They're going to really love it, I believe. Um, and one thing I also want to touch on is that I'm also a mentor to the peer support specialists who go through the PELC training now. So it's really
Oh,
that full circle moment where I was that person served going to the training and having a mentor, and now I am a mentor to the next PSS going through the training. I've been doing that for 2 years now. This is going to be my third year doing that with our fifth session of PELC.
yeah.
That's really amazing seeing them dedicate their time and their work to becoming a peer support specialist and showing up every day and taking in all the knowledge and information and just going out on the floor with their peers and really just giving their best. It really shows a lot of growth from them, and I love being a part of that growth with them.
Yeah. That's wonderful. I know Chris Martin has written a lot of materials for peers to use as groups.
Yeah, he has.
Are you using any of that?
Yes, Best Side Story, Tai Chi, Reading Circle. Those
Okay.
are all Chris Martin groups. And
Okay.
my groups have varied from the beginning. When peer support first started, I remember them saying, go sit in a room and figure out what kind of groups you want to run. And we had no material given to us. We
Yes.
didn't know what we were going to do. We were like, okay, me and my partner were like, let's think of some groups and what we can do.
Yeah.
Um, but now there's a lot more structure. There's a lot more support. There's a lot more blueprints that we can run off of.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier today to do groups and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Good. He's shared with me some of what he created, and it just looked like it would be so helpful to you folks to have some material to use, so you're not just trying to make it up every time.
Oh yeah, it's amazing. The groups that he comes up with are phenomenal, and the clients love it. We love facilitating it. It's
Yeah.
awesome.
Good. Great. And um, how many peer support groups have been at Crestwood at San Diego now? I'm thinking five or something, or
How many different? Well, we have. Let me see. We have Bridget, Shark, Douglas, myself. We have four Crestwood employees: Bridget, Douglas, Shark, and myself. And we have several Dreamcatcher PSSs.
uh-huh.
I want to say maybe between 5 to 9.
Oh, wow.
Uh,
Great.
maybe a little less, maybe not 9. There's a lot of dream catchers, but I want to say at least 5 of them are peer support specialist certified. And they come up with all kinds of groups. There's several different groups. They have a games group. They have wellness for group. They have wellness groups on different things. I mean, we have a list of different groups that we can facilitate. Um, but they're all really amazing groups. I used to do a motivational group where a motivational video every Monday where we would listen to a motivational tape and they would write notes about what they liked or what they learned or what they
Uh-huh.
didn't.
Uh-huh.
And I'd have a lot of people show up for that. It would really inspire them, and we would talk about it after the group. I've had a writing group where people write out of a prompt that I come up with,
Mm-hmm.
and then different recovery topics with several questions that go along with that topic. There's just so many different groups, but Chris Martin really introduced some top of the line groups to us recently last year, where we're able to start facilitating those groups. Where I feel like those are where my focus is today, is the
Uh-huh.
groups that he offers.
Yeah. That's great. Well, is there anything else you'd like to add before we hang up?
Maybe my goals for the future.
Oh, good. Yeah, good idea.
Yeah, so my goals for the future are to go to school to be a substance abuse counselor. I plan to go to City College to do that. My career goals: I want to work for the realty one day as a peer support specialist who oversees the other peer support programs at all the other Crestwoods. That would be a really big dream of mine that I would love to be a part of.
Yeah.
And I just hope to continue to inspire and encourage those in recovery and to bring light that recovery is possible and that it is real, that anyone can recover.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to continue to be the best person I could be here at Crestwood and continue serving our people.
That's wonderful. And I think you can do all of that right away. You're
Thank
ready.
you.
You're ready. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your time and sharing your inspirational story with us. I really appreciate it. I know our viewers will learn a lot from you. So thank you again.
Absolutely. It was my pleasure. Thank you, Lori.
There you have it, my friends. I told you you'd be inspired and that you would fall in love with Alicia. And I can't imagine that that hasn't happened. And let me just remind you that Alicia is a wonderful example of recovery happening to someone who has not been high on the expectation list. When you bounce around in a community mental health system, when you get put on conservatorship, when you get put in a locked facility, the world is not holding the hope for you. You've got to hold it for yourself, and you've got to find some people who hold it with you, which is what Alicia did. So while she's an excellent example, she's not the only person who's done this. At this point in time, Crestwood has employed at the moment 38 peers in their various programs. And climbing, we're adding more all the time. So, oh, it's just a wonderful story. I just love it. And I'm so happy to share it with you. So, there you go. If you haven't subscribed, please do that. And I think that's all I have to say. So, thanks for joining us. See you next time, and sending you lots of love.